Welcome to Teen ypww Lesson 6. I do not own the rights to this music. Today's topic is The World is Ever Changing, but God Remains the Same, Part 2. The lesson text is coming out of 1 Samuel chapter 1 and chapter 2, Hebrews chapter 10 verses 22 through 24, and 1 Corinthians chapter 10 verses 12 through 14. The memory verse. I will read the King James Version first and then the New International Version of Malachi chapter 3 verse 6. For I am the Lord, I change not. Therefore, ye sons of Jacob are not consumed. The New International Version. I, the Lord, do not change. So you, the descendants of Jacob, are not destroyed. The key for today's lesson, the principles of God remain the same. The focus for today's lesson, students will learn to trust the consistency of God. This week, we continue to discuss the consistent changes in the world and our lives. We will also discuss and give insights about the consistency of God. The famous Greek philosopher Heraclitus said, "The only constant in life is change." While this thought is an excellent assessment of the vicissitudes of life, it is not the final assessment of the life of a believer. We have three additional constants in life: the promise, presence, and power of God. These three immutable attributes of God outweigh all other attributes of change in our lives. Yes, teen listeners and readers, we can face any change in our lives with both the enactment of our faith and God's help. As believers, we must believe. There will be times in our lives when we may not see the promise, sense the presence, or see the results of God's power in our lives. Those are the times we must activate our faith and believe that our help is on the way. When we don't see a way, we must believe that eventually God will make a way. He will give us a plan that will enable us to succeed. We must learn how to hold on to our faith and trust God. In addition, believers must also live in expectancy. We can't walk around with a sad countenance when facing difficult situations and negative challenges in our lives. We should walk with our heads held high, not in arrogance, but in expectant faith that says, today might be the day that my help shows up. Today might be the day that God gives you a winning strategy or plan that leads to the answers you have been praying for. Let's continue to review the life of young Samuel as he faced additional transitional changes while growing up in his new home away from his parents. Samuel's first transition was successful. He became acclimated to his new environment. He grew in stature and looked forward to the annual visits from his parents. His second transition was to learn how to deal with the family dynamics of his new home. While it is certain that Eli was a great provider, teacher, and tutor for the young Samuel, it is also certain that his sons lived lives of ill repute. Hophni and Phinehas were dishonorable young men who disrespected the church and the ordinances of God. Eli allowed his sons to live in this inordinate manner, and God was not pleased. Samuel witnessed their blatant disrespect towards their father Eli and God. He had to purpose it in his heart not to be influenced by the sinful lifestyle of Eli's sons. Samuel could have joined them, but he did not. He had to work to guard his mind and spirit. He learned everything he could about ministry from Eli and continued to grow in favor with God and men. Samuel obeyed God and was dutiful in all his assignments. One night, while he was sleeping, he heard the voice of God calling his name, "Samuel, Samuel." He thought that it was Eli calling him. He ran to his side and said, "Here am I, for thou callest me." And that's 1 Samuel chapter 3, verse 5. Eli declared that he did not call him and asked him to go back to his room. Samuel quickly obeyed Eli. After two more times of this same scenario, Eli realized that it was God calling Samuel. Eli then advised Samuel at the next call he should answer, "Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth." and that's 1 Samuel chapter 3, verse 10. Samuel followed this advice and began his lifelong relationship with God. After this conversation, Samuel followed God's directives explicitly for the rest of his life. Samuel realized that God's constant presence had been with him from the time of his birth, before he even knew the voice of God. The presence of God remained consistent in Samuel's life. This same godly principle is true for you, teen listeners and readers. As believers, we can rest assured that if we allow Him, God's presence and guidance will be a tangible constant in our lives. Samuel respected Eli's leadership and God's principles. Therefore, God blessed Samuel to have a successful life and ministry. When we as believers trust and obey God, we can expect the consistency of God's influence and guidance in our lives. The various changes that we are challenged with in our lives does not negate the omnipresent power of God. Often it is through the changes and challenges in our lives that God's plan and destiny for our lives is revealed. Negative environments and the sinful lifestyles of our friends are no match for the power of God. The questions for today's lesson. Number 1. Samuel was a great student while learning from Eli during his early years. What are some responsibilities you think he might have had while living and working in the temple? Question 2. Samuel purposed in his heart not to participate in the lifestyle of Hophni and Phinehas. What are some strategies that you can use to guard your heart from being persuaded by friends who want you to join them in their sinful lifestyles? The end. God bless you and thank you for joining me today.